CTV News with Angela Mackenzie.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Canada's most wanted fugitive may be behind bars tonight in Europe. Al Boivin was reportedly captured by police in Marbella, Spain today, and Caroline Boivin was wanted for several alleged crimes.
Yes, and all of them were quite serious, Angela. He has been on the run for more than 3 years, and his arrest comes after a long investigation by the SQ along with several other forces in Canada and around the world. Now, Boivin was wanted for drug trafficking, organized crime, aggravated assault, kidnapping, false imprisonment, breaking and entering, and weapons trafficking. He's originally from the Saguenay region, but became involved with street gangs who took on motorcycle gangs in 2022. And Boivin's alleged crimes include murder and torture, and he was considered armed and dangerous. He's also linked to a string of violent incidents in several regions of Quebec before fleeing the country.
Attacking the Hells Angels and causing all the chaos and torture and severe crimes, extortions, aggravated assaults up to murder. So it's very significant.
Now, Boivin was actually the #2 on the BOLO, or be on the lookout for, list until the arrest of a very close associate, Dave Pick Turmel, the alleged leader of the Blood family mafia. Turmel was arrested in Italy in 2025 and is now awaiting extradition there. Paletti says it's quite possible that Turmel or another associate helped police find Boivin, who had a $100,000 bounty on his head, but says it's a bit surprising that Boivin was found in Spain.
The old saying goes, you could run, but you can't hide. And we're not talking about here sophisticated organized crime. These two individuals are low-end thugs. These are dangerous ones, but they tend to be very flashy, very, if it was traditional organized crime, it'd be a bit different. We've seen in the past people involved in the Cosa Nostra, traditional Ndrangheta, who've been, were sought for 20 years, 10 years. They wouldn't go to a place like Marbella, a high touristy area. They stay very low profile.
Now, Paletti says Boivin's arrest is significant and a big victory for police. He says it also sends a message to the criminal underworld. The SQ today thanked the RCMP, Interpol, and Spanish police for their help. And this afternoon, Yann Lafrenière, Quebec's Minister of Domestic Security, also congratulated all police at all levels for their work. Angela.
All right, thanks very much, Caroline. Well, a 72-year-old Quebec man convicted of manslaughter in a Montreal cold case from 1996 is appealing the verdict. He is scheduled to appear in court on July 21st. Serge Audette was found guilty in May in the death of 25-year-old Patricia Ferguson. His sentencing hearing was supposed to take place in October. The Crown is seeking the maximum sentence for manslaughter, which is life in prison. Ferguson's body has never been found. And a memorial was held in Côte-des-Neiges Thursday evening at the scene where a police officer and civilian were fatally shot on Monday. Dozens came out lighting candles and singing songs. Many lay flowers and stones per Jewish custom next to a photograph of Michel Mizrahi, the bystander who was killed. The life of Mohammed Lamine Ben Redouane, the police officer killed that day, was also honored.
We felt like we had to come and give our support. And I just hope that in all this situation, it'll bring peace and unity. All of us, all Montrealers, all of us together.
This was a real tragedy. This is not the Canada I know. This could have been any of us. And we just have to be here to unite and be together as one and make sure that this never happens again.
In the wake of the shooting, the RCMP are opening a national security investigation into ideological violent extremism. The RCMP says branches of its integrated national security enforcement team are working together on the case, which is separate from the murder investigation led by the SQ. The teams target terrorist groups or people who threaten national security. Montreal police have announced that the civic funeral for the police officer shot and killed on Monday will be held the week of July 6th. In an email to CTV News, the SPVM says the exact date and time for Mohammed Lamine Ben Redouane's funeral will be announced shortly. Well, Montreal is fast-tracking a plan to get dozens of empty apartments back on the market. The city says the project won't solve the housing crisis, but could help some at risk of falling into homelessness. Laurence Brisson-Dubroy reports.
For 45 people, a new home could be just weeks away. Montreal is spending $540,000 to quickly renovate 45 vacant apartments, making them available for those who may soon have nowhere to stay. Mayor Soraya Martinez-Ferrada says it's a small number of units, but a meaningful step.
The work that we need to do in terms of working with Quebec to also support the clientele is huge. It's very important. But having today 45 apartments that were not accessible today and will be in 2 months, it's a big deal.
They're part of the city's housing stock of more than 5,000 units across Montreal. About 100 of those apartments are currently vacant and in need of some work, mostly only minor repairs, including painting or plumbing fixes before they can be occupied.
Having some vacancy is also healthy. Now, having homes that are not been able to be rented because they're not renovated or accessible, that is not healthy.
But tenants' rights advocates say the announcement also highlights a bigger issue. Margaret Van Newton of Project Genesis says the need for affordable housing investment remains urgent.
So many people are homeless. It's just such a shame, and you really have to ask about budget priorities, that this would be allowed to continue, that there are the number of vacant dwellings.
The issue extends beyond Montreal. Housing advocacy group Frappru says more than 2,100 households across Quebec are currently receiving help finding a place to live, which is up from last year. And Van Newton says many others are living in precarious conditions that often go unseen.
There's a lot of invisible homelessness. People housed so precariously that, we can't really say that they are housed. We see many people who are not in appropriate housing situations, just a step away from the street.
Officials say they're also exploring other options, including the possibility of acquiring vacant condos and converting them into affordable housing. Laurence Brisson-Dubroy, CTV News.
In 2022, Quebec became the first province in Canada to bring in electronic tracking bracelets to protect victims of domestic violence. Christine Long looked into how well the technology is working 4 years later.
In the monitoring center, a real-time view of abusers' locations in Quebec. The dots represent hundreds of anti-approach ankle monitors, each worn by someone accused or convicted of domestic abuse.
To ensure victim safety, as that's always the priority.
Commissionnaire du Québec Security Experts is a non-profit organization hired by the province and partnered with law enforcement. The firm is in charge of monitoring the movements of abusers, not their victims.
We ensure that victims have confidentiality and can go about their daily lives without feeling tracked. The monitoring center does not know victim location unless there is a danger or a proximity situation happening.
If an abuser goes within the court-ordered perimeter of their victim, they get loud warnings through their ankle monitor and are told to turn back. If they don't, police are then called to intervene.
Très bien.
Priscilla Thiers says 96% of warnings are resolved without police intervention and without panicking the victim unnecessarily.
Manage things without having victims receive that call and ensure their safety at the same time, then we avoid calling.
Melpa Camateros of Shield of Athena Family Services says she called for this technology years ago.
It reinforces the security and it has less potential of the abusive partner getting close and getting a chance to kill their ex-wives or intimate partners and their children.
Camatero says until this program, victims had to fend for themselves.
It's the first time that the onus of the responsibility for the violence, instead of being put on the victim to protect herself, is put directly on the abusive person.
Recently, a wearer in Quebec cut off his ankle monitor, triggering a police response. He was picked up within 24 hours. Camatero says victims are more worried about when the monitor is removed permanently.
A bigger fear is for them going back to court and trying to convince the judge that they should remove it legally. So that's a bigger fear.
Christine Long, CTV News.
The labor market in Quebec is facing some challenges. There are concerns for young Anglophones in particular who face higher rates of unemployment and are making less money than Francophone youth. Matt Grillo reports.
For so many years, Anglophones have been told they need to master French if they want to find work in Quebec. And yet, speaking French is still a major concern for young Anglophones entering the workforce.
For English-speaking youth, for some of them, it's the language barrier. It's not being fluent enough in French or thinking that they're not fluent enough in French, because that's often what we notice as well.
Rosalie DeLolo helps English-speaking Quebecers find jobs, and she says language comes up every day. PERT, the Provincial Employment Roundtable, compiled data from the 2021 census. It shows unemployment is higher for English-speaking youth, 13.1% compared to 7.8% for Francophones. Anglophone Quebecers from 25 to 34 years old earned an income of about $33,000 a year, approximately $6,000 less than French people in the same age bracket. DeLolo says it can take an Anglophone up to 2 years to find the right job.
A French-speaking person can take anywhere between 6 weeks to 7-8 months to find employment. So an English-speaking person, or a person that doesn't live within that majority, can take even longer.
Jack Jedwab has looked at the numbers and says it warrants further study.
Ultimately, the political will needs to be there to address these issues. They don't strike me anyways as being enough of a priority for decision makers in Quebec. And clearly, you would think that Quebec would like to retain its youth, independent of what their first language is, English or French.
The minister responsible for relations with English-speaking Quebecers, Christopher Skeet, says he's concerned about these statistics, and he says the problem is a top priority for Quebec.
I freely admit that one of my passions would be to probably have more courses available for people after school. But if kids are graduating in high school and are not prepared, I think we need to have a serious conversation with the English school board system, who are elected officials who should be accountable to parents.
It can be very difficult for English-speaking youth looking for employment.
They increasingly feel excluded from Quebec. It's not that they don't want to belong to society. It's almost like they're receiving the message that they don't belong. And that's extremely hurtful for them too, and it affects them.
DeLolo says she sees a lot of motivation from Anglophone youth, committed to making it work in Quebec, to build their future here rather than another province. Matt Grillo, CTV News.
A 27-year-old was caught speeding once again. He's a repeat offender. According to the SQ, he was stopped on the 25 near Terrebonne on Wednesday for driving 177 kilometers an hour in a 100-kilometer zone. The Saint Julien resident had his license suspended for 30 days, received a $1,500 ticket and 14 demerit points. Well, talks between Metro and its warehouse workers have stalled after the grocery chain rejected the union's latest offer. The union says its counteroffer was meant to bridge the gap, but Metro shot it down, saying it doesn't reflect today's competitive reality. Workers are demanding better wages and have been on strike since the end of March.
The union's position is that this is a completely deplorable tactic. It's an intimidation tactic towards our workers. We want to keep negotiating. We're really not that far off. It's a salary-based negotiation at this point. We want a fair deal. The employer says our demands are too high. We think their offers are too low, but there's a way to keep negotiating, and the employer needs to get back to that table.
The union represents more than 500 workers. Well, a Habs legend just got one of Canada's highest honors. Yvon Cournoyer is now an officer of the Order of Canada. The Hockey Hall of Famer played 16 seasons with the Montreal Canadiens, winning 10 Stanley Cups. He won the Conn Smythe for playoff MVP in 1973 and is named one of the NHL's 100 greatest players.
I think the fans, the hockey fan, see me like hockey. But now the people are going to see me as my country. So I think to have both is very nice. I try to do my best on the ice to keep my place, first of all, and win the game. Winning for me is very important. It's anything. I might not be the best one at everything, but when I do something, I like to do it well. For me, hurting some people said, hey, you were fantastic. And I said, no, we were fantastic. The Montreal Canadiens, it's a team in the world, the well-known Montreal Canadiens hockey team. And when you play for them like 16 years, and you win 10 Stanley Cup with that team, and now you get an honor to go with it, I like it.
Corneille was among 8 Quebecers appointed to the Order of Canada, among them Juanita Westmoreland-Traore, Quebec's first black judge, and author and scientist Michel Bouvier. Well, Mark Carney says the government plans to restore 24 Sussex, the Prime Minister's official residence, by launching a national design competition and fundraising campaign. Carney says the heritage building is now in a critical state from decades of neglect, and he does not want to see it crumble. The 35-room mansion built in 1896 was abandoned as the official Ottawa residence of the Prime Minister in 2015. Abigail Biman reports from Ottawa.
This home is just 1 year younger than Canada. The Prime Minister describes it now as barely held together.
A rare look inside the official residence of the Prime Minister that ended up full of dead rodents, asbestos and mold.
We will not let it crumble. We will set it right.
The Prime Minister announced a competition for Canadian firms to present design and construction plans, with famous Canadian architect Moshe Safdie chairing a jury to assess them.
It's an extraordinary site with extraordinary potential. I think something wonderful can be developed here.
The government believes the cost will be under $50 million and will fundraise most or all of that, promising rules to avoid conflicts.
Individuals and philanthropic organizations, no corporate donations. The list of donors will be public. There will be a limit.
Former occupants Jean Chrétien and Stephen Harper will offer advice. In a statement, Harper told CTV News he's pleased the decision was taken to preserve the property.
Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, who, when they were renegotiating the Constitution to patriate it in 1982, he was in Sussex Drive when Jean Chrétien was making the phone calls back to him to say, is this the deal we want?
Author J.D.M. Stewart says the building is critical to Canadian history.
It is a place where all of our prime ministers since 1951 have made a lot of the decisions and done a lot of the work and greeted heads of government and heads of state from around the world.
When I see the homelessness on our streets and I see the young people who are desperate to start families but can't get a house to do it, I just think the last thing on our mind should be 24 Sussex Drive.
The winning design will be announced on Canada Day next year, 2027. No word on how soon a future Prime Minister could move in. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Canadian officials are set to meet with their American and Mexican counterparts next week for the first trilateral meeting to review CUSMA, the current North American Free Trade Agreement. Prime Minister Mark Carney says he wants a deal that's good for Canadian industries that are being affected by U.S. tariffs.
We are fighting for those industries, but the other core message, apart from the direct support that we're giving to the industry, helping them to reposition for any eventuality, is that what we're not going to do is to accept a deal that damages those industries.
July 1st is the deadline for all 3 parties to decide whether to renew the agreement for another 16 years, withdraw from it altogether, or to start an annual rolling review process that could take years. The United States and Mexico have already started bilateral negotiations. Canada and the United States have not. Coming up, the ongoing search for survivors.
We have a total of 25 teams, both search and rescues and medical teams.
50,000 people are still missing following twin earthquakes in Venezuela. And a sweltering heat wave spreads further across Europe. Rescue teams and relief aid are pouring into Venezuela from more than 20 countries, and the search continues for an estimated 50,000 missing people in the aftermath of the two powerful earthquakes that struck just west of Caracas on Wednesday. The death toll stands at 920 people. Lauren Glassberg reports.
Today, the race against time in Venezuela. Rescue workers painstakingly sifting through massive piles of rubble, searching for quake survivors. One of those rescued, a 4-year-old boy, carried to safety. And now search and rescue teams arriving from around the world.
We have a total of 25 teams, both search and rescues and medical teams from across the world deploying, with a total of 1,000 rescue personnel.
Multiple teams dispatched from the U.S., the first search and rescue response team arriving today with a dozen trained canines, trained for finding people trapped in the rubble. A website for reporting missing loved ones lists more than 50,000 as unaccounted for, with fears the death toll could increase drastically. New video shows the moment the quake hit. You can hear people screaming, glass shattering, dust from a collapsed building filling the streets. The coastal city of La Guaira hit hardest, building after building flattened. This woman, who says she has multiple family members trapped under the rubble, begging for more help from the government. Saying human strength is not enough. They need heavy equipment to help them with the search. And here at home, workers in Florida gathering supplies to aid those displaced.
They're in a state of shock. Some people have lost everything.
The main airport in Caracas suffered catastrophic damage in the quake, complicating search and rescue and aid delivery efforts. Lauren Glassberg, ABC News, New York.
And Canada has announced it's providing $5 million in humanitarian aid to support emergency relief efforts in Venezuela. Well, Iran has issued a warning to vessels using the Strait of Hormuz. It comes after Donald Trump blamed Iran's first drone strike on the cargo ship in the strait. Britt Clennett reports.
Well, Iran has warned commercial vessels to only use routes through the Strait of Hormuz approved by Tehran. And what that's doing is reopening a point of friction in these fragile negotiations ongoing between the United States and Iran over the future of that strategic waterway. We also heard from Iranian state media reporting that 3 foreign oil tankers were turned back in the Strait of Hormuz after encountering warnings from Iran. And that's after a cargo ship was reportedly struck off the coast of Oman while traveling along the Omani-approved route. Now, Iranian state TV, it also says that a communication line has been established between Iran and the United States in the Strait of Hormuz under the final statement of the Switzerland talks to help prevent incidents that could trigger military escalation. Lots of questions over how that mechanism would work, but there are positive signs. As Saudi Aramco, they have restarted loading crude at its main Gulf export hub after a pause of nearly 4 months caused by the conflict. But there are disagreements still over shipping routes and transit fees that could also complicate efforts to reach a permanent agreement. Britt Clennett, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says Canada has no current plans to open embassies in Iran or Venezuela. Anand says Canada relies on Italy to connect with Canadians in Iran, but admits using an intermediary isn't the most efficient way of dealing with consular issues. Her comments come after a group called the Iranian Justice Collective said it had heard from an undisclosed source the federal government intends to reestablish diplomatic relations and reopen its embassy in Tehran. Former White House National Security Advisor John Bolton has pleaded guilty to mishandling sensitive national security information. It's related to his work during the first Trump administration. Christine Cordero reports.
It's the first win for the Department of Justice's prosecutors in a slew of cases against President Trump's perceived political enemies. In a Maryland courthouse today, former National Security Advisor John Bolton pleaded guilty to 1 count of illegal retention of national security information. Prosecutors allege Bolton broke the law despite knowing how to properly handle classified information.
He also knew the damage to national security that could be caused by mishandling that sensitive information. Nevertheless, as Mr. Bolton just admitted, he put our national security at grave risk in violation of the law.
Bolton faced 18 counts total for allegedly sharing notes via email with his wife and daughter taken from his time at the White House. Prosecutors argued some of the information in those notes had classification levels as high as top secret. Bolton served under Trump's first term, then became one of the president's most vocal critics. No comment from Bolton or his legal team when leaving court today. Under the terms of his plea agreement, he will pay $2.25 million to resolve the case, will do community service, forfeits any retirement pay tied to his time in federal service, and could face prison time. The judge will decide how much time Bolton spends in prison, if any. The sentencing hearing is scheduled for late October. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Much of Europe is baking through another day of searing heat, and the hot weather is starting to spread across the continent. Hundreds of deaths have already been linked to the heat in Spain, with numbers likely to rise across the continent over the coming days. In Rome, civil protection officials are spraying water using misting fans to cool down tourists checking out the Colosseum. Temperatures there hit 34 degrees today, climbing to 38 over the weekend. And people have been flocking to docks and beaches in Amsterdam as the Netherlands hits temperatures in the mid-30s. A rare code red alert has been issued for extreme heat, which will continue for the next few days. This animation gives a better idea of just how hot it's going to be over the next 24 hours. Officials in the United Kingdom say the village of Cavendish has broken the record for the hottest June day on record. The third straight day a new UK record for the month has been set. Well, a small plane appears to have crashed into Beijing's tallest building. You can see the damage to a part of the 109-story tower. It was local media that reported a small aircraft slammed into the building. There is a heavy police presence on the ground below the massive 528-meter tower. When we return, looking into threats possibly targeting police.
So impactful, and as I said, this has become an attack on our profession.
Police in Calgary investigate possible coordinated threats that may have been linked to the shooting in Montreal.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
Increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
Calgary police conducted an investigation into possible coordinated threats targeting officers in Calgary that may have been linked to Monday's shooting in Montreal. Tyson Fedor reports.
Calgary's police chief says her members are remaining vigilant following the death of a Montreal police officer earlier this week.
It's gut-wrenching. It's so impactful. And as I said, this has become an attack on our profession.
Despite attacks stretching from Quebec and Ontario to Saskatchewan, police in our city say there are no coordinated threats against officers here. But investigators will not share specifics about intelligence, and they are working with other jurisdictions, including the RCMP.
The members who go out every day to protect and serve this city, knowing that at any minute they face risk, they face increased crime and complexity.
The Police Association says the job of an officer has become more dangerous due to increased violent crime and repeat offenders out on bail.
These are a reminder that no matter how safe you are, there's always people out there who are looking to harm our members. I think the job is more dangerous than it has ever been. We see more guns coming off the street. We see more violent crime, and I think it's a narrative about society overall. We see a mental health system that's overworked and at its breaking point.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford wants police safety near the top of the agenda at next month's Premier's meeting. Alberta says it shares his concerns. Calgary's mayor says workplace safety must remain a top priority for all first responders.
So we need to remain vigilant. We need to step up and support our first responders. We need to advocate for the tools, specifically around sentencing and bail reform, to be able to address these offenders.
One criminologist says it's rare for violent attacks on police officers despite the recent shootings and assaults, but Kelly Sundberg adds it leaves a challenging impression.
It makes it very difficult for the police to recruit. Who wants to join a profession where you potentially could get killed?
Sundberg blames toxic social media messaging for an increase in distaste towards police officers.
We have to start looking at where are these attitudes developing And what can we do to change them?
Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
Well, I am live from a perfect family activity. This is the Harry Potter Visions of Magic immersive exhibit at Place Bonaventure in Montreal. And for fans of the franchise, there is a lot to geek out about. Right now, I'm standing in what's called the Room of Requirements. And this is where some of the most iconic items from the Harry Potter books and films really come to life. So, of course, that includes the magical sorting hat. And what happens is you get a wand when you arrive, point toward the magical elements, and uncover all of the different surprises. I had a chance actually to catch up with one of the minds behind the project, and she shared that this is actually also the exhibit's Canadian premiere. Let's take a listen.
Since its inception, EMM was exporting shows across the world. But today, our strategy is naturally evolving towards developing and promoting shows in our own territory as well. It's not just about people who like Harry Potter who can visit here. I think it's for everybody who loves experiences and innovation, because it's the first time we are doing an interactive experience with a wands here in Montreal.
So again, there is a lot to love. That also includes perhaps the price. Tickets start at $26 plus taxes and fees. And this exhibit runs up until August 23rd. It was so well received that it was actually extended. It is closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but it's open every other day of the week. Now, as for my trick, this is the wand that you receive. I will make the weather maps appear and give you a look at our forecast in the coming days. We are currently sitting at a temperature of 22 degrees for the Montreal area, looking slightly cooler in the surrounding areas where we have 19 degrees in Mirabel and 18 over in Sherbrooke. And for our expected high today, we were sitting at a temperature of 22 degrees. Now, if we look to our record high, that dates back to 2003, and that number sits at 33.4 degrees. We could very soon be seeing temperatures in that realm, but for tonight, expecting a low of 16, and good news with periods of showers expected to clear over the course of the evening. So by tomorrow morning, we're expecting full-on sun and clouds. That would be with a wake-up temperature of 17. By afternoon, we could be up to a high of 25 with more sunshine coming in, but we are also seeing some possible nighttime showers in the forecast. So you'll want to keep that in mind if you're heading to things like the Jazz Festival this weekend. It's looking like timing-wise, our futurecast showing us that rain could hit late on Saturday at around 9 p.m. But Sunday is looking better and brighter. So mainly sunny skies. We're seeing that along with a daytime high of 28 degrees. The temperature could move down to a low of 17 on Sunday night, but more sunshine and clouds expected to start off next week. So on Monday, looking like that would be along with a high of 29. In the middle of the week is when we could see a return to showers. By Wednesday, we could once again have a potential thunderstorm risk. So certainly a reason to make the most of this weekend while you can.
Thanks, Anastasia. Well, in Vancouver, another pivotal match is happening at BC Place tonight with New Zealand taking on Belgium. But there is frustration and disappointment that despite being a host country, Team Canada will not play in Canada for the remainder of the World Cup. Here, Yasmin Grandin reports.
Hoo-ha, Canada! Hoo-ha, Canada!
The energy electric in Vancouver leading up to Canada's game at BC Place on Wednesday. Despite losing to the Swiss, the team has advanced to knockout round for the first time in World Cup history. But now the journey shifts away from home soil and down to California.
The U.S. plays all of their games in the U.S. They don't have to leave the U.S. at any point in time. So, not the best.
This is a great atmosphere down in Vancouver, and when it's your own team playing, it's even better. But, and I don't really like that it's in L.A.
Fans disappointed by the decision. Had Canada come away with a win or draw in their final group stage match, the team would have played at BC Place in Vancouver instead.
It doesn't make sense that the group winner from our group was going to play in Vancouver, and in Toronto they're going to have another game. It would have been easy for them to schedule the second place from our group to go back to Toronto.
TSN analyst Christian Jack also expressed his frustrations on the One Soccer show for the win.
You're either a co-host or you're not.
He says FIFA could have easily avoided this situation.
If you are a co-host and you are having 2 games in the last 32, it could have easily been organised where Canada may have had to go to Toronto if it wasn't Vancouver.
When Premier David Eby was asked about the decision at an unrelated press conference Wednesday, he echoed the frustration from fans.
There is just no way to predict which direction Canada would be going in terms of the groups, who would be coming out of the other groups. And so that is all determined well in advance. There was a window that we were enabled that Canada could have stayed here had the game turned out the way that we wished yesterday.
Still, tickets for the match in Los Angeles sold out in less than half an hour. If Canada defeats South Africa, it will advance to the round of 16 game in Houston on July 4th. Yasmin Gandam, CTV News, Vancouver.
We will have live FIFA coverage on CTV. Saturday's live news broadcast will be preempted. Sunday's newscast will air after Canada's historic match against South Africa, which gets underway at 3 p.m. Eastern. We look forward to joining you as soon as the game is over. And Montreal's Jazz Fest is underway. The 46th edition of the festival will last 10 days. It features around 150 indoor shows, as well as more than 350 free open-air shows at Place des Festivals.
And I like the food, and I like the variety of music. It's very nice. I'm from the States, so it's good to see. It's good to hear different types of music.
This is our first time in Montreal, and we're having a wonderful time. Great first day, great experience, and now we get to enjoy some music. So thank you.
I love that it's free and that it's just a community event, and like we all get to come together and just listen to music and enjoy the summer.
One of the big shows Saturday night will be Quebec's Engin de Poitrine at 9:30 on the TD stage. Well, access to the mountain will be limited at the end of the month, and then the REM will be delayed during the first weekend of Jazz Fest. Work on the REM network will delay the start time on June 27th and 28th until 7:30 a.m. on Saturday and noon on Sunday. From June 30th to July 10th, Camillion-Eudes Road over Mount Royal will be closed for paving and scaffolding work. The road will be closed to car, bicycle, and pedestrian traffic. Up next, patients on edge.
Is this going to be not my fault? I'm going to end up having to have surgery, or worse.
A drug shortage in Canada has many worried and looking for solutions. And why Leonard Cohen's estate has a beef with Trump.
Your Health, brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
There are concerns about drug shortages that are leaving patients and pharmacists scrambling. Now, one pharmacist is calling for action from both provincial and federal governments to help fix the issue. Siobhan Morris reports.
2 drops in the morning. Kirsten Campbell was thrown for a loop last week when she tried to refill a prescription for eye drops.
No, can't be to anger, and then I was in a bit of a panic.
She's been using Combigan for years to treat glaucoma. She'd never had an issue before.
Is this going to be not my fault? I'm going to end up having to have surgery? Or worse, like the pressure builds up and something worse could happen.
She did eventually get set up with an alternative, but her eye drops, one of the drugs a bunch of pharmacists have struggled to get their hands on. Same with hydromorphone, commonly prescribed after surgery.
A heartburn medication called Tecta, or it's generic, pantoprazole magnesium, that's been on back order for over a month.
The reason for the holdup is different drug to drug. Issues at the manufacturing level, a spike in demand. Massey says that causes a lot of frustration on both sides of the pharmacy counter.
We end up having to try to find alternatives that we recommend to physicians, and then physicians end up wasting a lot of time reading through multiple communications.
It's adding
unnecessary time to a very simple process.
Dr. Alan Grill explains back orders also create scheduling complications for patients and may slow down getting the support they need.
You really should be speaking to the patient to let them know what's happening. So in some cases, your community pharmacist will do that. But in other cases, the patient will then potentially book a second appointment to find out why you changed your mind on the medication.
It helps when pharmacists recommend an alternative they do have in stock. Massey wants to eliminate that step.
Pharmacists should be allowed to switch medications when on back order to a drug in the same class that's equally efficacious with a similar side effect profile.
He's pleading for better communication from Health Canada about shortages and what's being done to mitigate them.
We just wake up in the morning and we find that a drug is not available. And I think that that's not acceptable.
Ontario has allowed pharmacists to administer more vaccines and treat more minor ailments, but Massey would like to see that pushed even further. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
A new study suggests buying local could provide a powerful boost to the economy. Les Produits du Québec, a nonprofit, found if each household spent $25 per week on Quebec products that aren't food, it would inject $3 billion into the province's economy. It would also create or maintain 29,000 Quebec jobs. The study points to a number of categories where Quebec competes with foreign imports, including hardware store items, clothing, and medical equipment.
Look for those small icons, small houses, blue houses of Quebec products, certified Quebec products, and simply go towards them. Buying a gallon of paint before moving, if you buy a Quebec product instead of an imported paint gallon, you will be contributing to the economy of Quebec, to the jobs in Quebec, and to reducing the environmental impact of importing products into Quebec.
The study estimates the revenue this would create for the provincial government would be enough to build around 5 new elementary schools.
Business News, brought to you by Oview Duluth, supporting families of sick children throughout the month of June.
The U.S. president is threatening 100% tariffs on countries that impose taxes on major U.S. digital firms. BNN Bloomberg's Christine Lee has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump warning he will immediately slap a 100% tariff on all goods from any country that implements a digital services tax on American technology companies. Writing on Truth Social that these tariffs will supersede any existing trade agreements, the ultimatum primarily targets European nations, which have been discussing these levies. Earlier this year, Canada repealed its digital services tax to avoid an economic war. Here are the closing numbers for the day. West Texas Intermediate is down $3.42. Western Canadian Select increased $1.69 to $57.46. And the TSX ended the day in the green, up about 130 points to close the day at 34,980 points. Those are your business headlines. I'm Christine Lee.
The estate of the late Leonard Cohen is condemning the use of his music at a Trump rally.
I've heard there was the secret chord.
Cohen's song Hallelujah was performed on Wednesday in Washington during a campaign-style rally hosted by U.S. President Donald Trump. On its Instagram account, Cohen's estate posted the use of the song is not authorized, and the estate does not support or approve the way it was used. Still to come, people in a Calgary neighborhood awestruck by some majestic visitors.
Stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here tonight on CTV.
For breaking news and local news that matters to you, download the CTV News app right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using your smartphone. Or you can also go to our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca.
Anastasia joins us once again from the Harry Potter immersive exhibit at Place Bonaventure.
That's right, Angela. And as nightfall approaches, we have found our way to Nocturne Alley. Harry Potter fans know that this is a place of dark magic. So you definitely don't want to find yourself here at night, but we can give you a look at the weather for tonight. We are expecting to see a low at about 17 degrees. Also expecting to see periods of showers clearing out. So again, expecting a much brighter day for tomorrow morning. Seeing that wake-up temperature at 17 and then some sunshine making its way into our forecast. We do have a slight chance of showers in the late evening, so you'll want to keep that in mind. But our high is looking like 26, and good news for Sunday and Monday as well. There's more sun and clouds to come. Angela.
Thanks, Anastasia. Well, they are a Canadian symbol, but you don't see them often in a residential area. Two moose were captured on video taking a stroll along a street in northwest Calgary, munching trees and minding their own business. People in the area say the animals don't mind the neighbors all stopping to stare and taking videos of the unexpected urban wildlife. Well, that's it for us. We'll be back at 11:30. Have a good evening, everyone. Take care.